Throughout yesterday, I kept hearing the same words over and over in my head, and it's what I want to bring to you today. I initially thought, when Andy said, give them an opening thought for the day, I had an idea of where I wanted to go, but yesterday I felt repeatedly God saying to me, pay attention. Pay attention. That was the word over and over again. As we were listening to some of the things that were being shared, I felt like God say, pay attention. Are you listening to this? Are you watching this? And it makes God sound a little bit like a high school teacher, like sending a report home to my family. Sam is a nice boy, but he just needs to pay attention. I remember that school report. I don't know if you are like me. I got one too. Sam could be a success if he was just to pay attention. Sam is so easily distracted. If he could just pay attention, he'd do well in life. I had that on my school report, and it's a good lesson for life. I think if I'd applied that truth, I wouldn't have done silly things. I remember one particular time cleaning out the blender with my finger and pressing on at the same time. If I just paid a bit more attention, I wouldn't have these scars that are around my finger. But it's not my fault. It's not my fault because there's a gene. There's a don't pay attention gene that has been, amen. It's been passed down through generations of my family. My dad has it, which is good. My dad is a health and safety consultant. His job is to help people pay attention. But he is the worst health and safety consultant in the world. My dad, one particular time, was trimming the hedge, the garden hedge. And he, because he's a health and safety guy, got a special trimmer. That means you have to press both handles on at the same time for it to work, so you can't cut your hand off. And but when he'd finished doing the hedge, he passed it to my mum, holding one handle and the blade. And my mum pressed the other handle. Flipping whizzed his hand. Nearly lost. And so my mum said, we need to take the glove off. And he was like, if I take the glove off, my fingers will come off. And they literally pouring blood out of the glove. It was a beautiful thing. What else my dad done? Oh, one time we were all the fellas went to fix the church roof, and we making it good, and we were putting insulation in the loft space, and we were walking on the beams, right, laying all this insulation, and then I heard a scream. There's nothing more terrifying than hearing your own dad scream, right? My dad screams, and I turn around, and he's falling off the beam of the church roof onto the suspended ceiling, which is being held up by fishing line, right? And he knows the health and safety rules, right? If you ever fall, spread your weight. So my dad spread eagle, on the suspended ceiling. It runs in the family. We don't pay attention, but I feel like God is saying, pay attention, pay attention. Are you aware of what's going on around you? The writer to the Hebrews in Hebrews chapter 2 says this: we must pay careful attention, therefore, to what we have heard, so we don't drift away. Pay careful attention. Now, the Hebrew writer has said some really serious things about the nature of Jesus. And he needs to make sure that those he's writing to know and understand what he's going on about. In Hebrews chapter 2, he said these incredible things about Jesus. He said this just beautiful piece of doxology. He says, the Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word. After he provided purification for sin, he sat down at the right hand of the majesty in heaven. He's talking about the nature of Jesus. He's saying, pay close attention to this truth. And we too need to pay close attention to who Jesus is, the truth of who he is. But those words kept coming to me time and time again yesterday. Pay attention. Are you paying attention to what you've heard when other people have stood to share about Jesus? As they've stood at the front and shared about the wonderful things that he's done. You know, we heard yesterday about salvation in Ragworth, salvation in Oxbridge, 12 passionate students joining our academy that want to be trained in evangelism. We've heard about 64 new starters in the past 12 months. Salvation in Salford Grocery, salvation in Wigan, salvation in Ragworth in their grocery, baptisms in Wythenshawe. 2,000 people at the launch of Advance into Pakistan and the translation of that material into Urdu. Advance into 69 nations of the world. Pay attention. Pay attention. Do you get what's going on here? This is unbelievable and remarkable. Salvation in the poorest places, to the poorest of people. Salvation to the hardest to reach people on the planet. Church growing in broken places. This is mad. It's unheard of. It just doesn't happen. Pay attention, everybody. What is going on in our midst is incredible. Do not become numb to this. This is what we've been dreaming for. This is what we've been praying for generations and generations. I remember as a youth praying for stuff like this. And now it's happening. It's so easy sometimes to like, well, you know, it's just standard practice at the message. Pay attention, everybody. What is going on here is amazing. Our prayer days are full of good stuff, but don't become numb to it. You know, when we hear about salvation of one person, we're like, oh, it's just one. Just one. You know, Andy shared yesterday, you know, it'd be worth it for 30 years of ministry for an old fella who turns up on his scooter and gives his life to the Lord in Ragworth. It'd be worth it for the one. Let's remember, it's worth it for the one. Pay attention to what God is doing here. This is stuff of eternal significance. But it's not happening on a micro level. It's happening on a grand scale, right across our movement, right across different departments. There isn't one place in which God isn't at work, isn't moving. Pay attention. Are you witnessing what he's doing? Are you seeing that he's still alive, still active, and here by his Spirit? Let's not miss it. Let's not overlook it. Let's not neglect it. Let's not ignore it or disregard it. Let's not drift. Let's not drift through this moment, through this day, through this season. You know, when we take our eyes from Jesus, who he is, what he's done, and what he's doing now, our tendency is to drift. That's what the writer to the Hebrews said. You know, when we don't listen, when we just neglect it, when we begin not to pay attention, we begin to drift off course. That word drift means like a ship which has left its moorings. You know, maybe the rope has come undone that was holding it to the harbor, and it begins to be pushed around by the waves. Maybe the current takes it out, and it's just drifting. No purpose, no direction. It's at the mercy of the sea. You know what? We have to stay rooted, have to stay fixed. We cannot get tossed about and begin to drift. I know what it is to drift. I know what it is to just let things happen and go on by. I don't want to miss this stuff. I was on a Zoom call the other day, and we've kind of got used to Zoom calls, haven't we? That awkward bit where you turn up on time and not everybody's there, and you have to make small talk and chat. Who's going to say some stuff? You know, people will make lots of observations. The amount of times people will talk about my beard, like, oh, you've got a beard, or your beard looks bigger, your beard looks shorter. It's like, it's the only thing they can see is my face, but they want to, make comment on it. And I was on a Zoom call. We're waiting in that awkward moment of like, who's going to speak? And then this chap pipes up and he says, my dad saved your life. I'm like, there's an intro. Lovely to meet you. My dad saved your life. And I was like, what? He said, my dad saved your life. And I was like, I'm trying to think back of like I ever had my life saved? Like, is he talking about a salvation thing? Like, who? What? I said, who are you? And he said, I'm Jack Carter. And I was like, no way. You're Steve Carter's son. And I remember suddenly, 1987, Abersock Beach. I was playing with my sister in the water. I got caught in a riptide. This guy, Steve Carter, jumps in, swims to my rescue, saves my life. I know what it is to drift, to get caught in a current and begin, almost helplessly to get drawn out somewhere where you don't want to go. And you know what? You don't realize it's happening to you. It's subtle, it's slow, it's silent. You don't realize that one by one, bit by bit, you're being pulled in a direction you didn't want to go to. You're in a place you never intended to be. Pay attention to what you've heard, to what you've seen, to what you've witnessed, so that you don't begin to drift. Let's not let it happen today. The writer to the Hebrews, if you read through Hebrews, will continue to use this word fix. So fix your thoughts, he says, in Hebrews chapter 3, verse 1. And those incredible words in Hebrews 12. Therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses that are telling each other all the time, testifying to the things that God has done, let's throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer, the perfecter of faith. Pay close attention today. Pay close attention to the words that we're singing, written by somebody else, but packed with truth. Fix your eyes on Jesus.